Hey everybody, New England Haunter here. I am Jamie. Welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to talk about something I've wanted to touch on for quite some time, and that is Drylok and Monster Mud. I think there's a lot of confusion on both of them. There's a lot of newer haunters out there that want to dip their hands in it and get some DIYs going. And there's a lot of confusion on which does what. Do you make them both? Do you buy one or the other? Do you use one for one thing or both for the same? It's very confusing. So I'm really hoping I can clear up a lot of this for you guys today. I'm calling this one Monster Mud and Drylok 101. Let's do this.
Step right up, come on in, join the show, it's about to begin.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is Drylok. Where can you get Drylok? Do you have to make it? You don't make Drylok. It's pre-mixed. It's actually a masonry paint that's used for waterproofing. It has sand mixed into it, and it's made for porous surfaces such as brick, concrete, things like that. You can get it at any Home Depot or Lowe's or your smaller mom and pop Ace Hardware stores, and it's mainly used on your graveyard tombstones and your cemetery columns, which are both made out of foam. Now, being that it has the sand mixed into it, it's going to give it that texture to give it a stone-like appearance. I have heard people using it, and I've used it myself on wood. It says right on the label, it's not to be used on wood. I don't know if it kind of eats away at wood, but I've noticed in the past that the things that I have used it on, it does kind of end up rotting. So my suggestion would be just using it on foam tombstones and your cemetery columns. Now, one of the things that probably may confuse some is that you're not waterproofing your tombstone and your cemetery columns. You're just giving it a stone-like appearance. You don't have to waterproof foam. You could take as much foam as you want and build a boat and not waterproof it and sail around the world and come back, and it's not going to hurt the foam at all. And since we're talking about Drylok, I do want to mention a couple things. It's very difficult to work with. Picture painting something with a bowl of gloppy oatmeal. It's kind of what it's like, really. So don't use a good paintbrush because you will kill your paintbrush with this stuff. Chip brushes will work great. Maybe you can find something at the dollar store that may work, or just an old paintbrush that you may not care about. The other thing too is if you're going to be using it for your tombstones, be very careful around the epitaph. All that hard work that you put in carving that epitaph out, you can completely obliterate it with Drylok. I've done it myself before. Trust me on this one. Just be very, very careful around the area. Maybe just sort of dab it on. Go real slow with it. That being said, let's talk Drylok one more time. Drylok is something pre-mixed that you purchase. It's used mainly on tombstones and cemetery columns that are made out of foam to give it a stone-like appearance, to give it that kind of sandy texture. And you're not waterproofing with Drylok. You're just doing it to get that look out of it. Now, on to Monster Mud. What is Monster Mud? Well, that is something that you have to make. I'm sure there's probably somebody somewhere that may sell it online. I can't imagine it being any cheaper than making it yourself. So my suggestion would be just, if you're going to do this, make it yourself. Everything needed for Monster Mud, you can get at your local hardware store as well, Home Depot, Lowe's. There are two ingredients, that's it. One is joint compound, which a lot of people refer to it as drywall mud. And the other is just an exterior latex paint. Now the ratio for these two to be mixed together are 5-to-1. I've seen some people use 4-to-1 out there, but 5-to-1 kind of seems to be the magic number. What does that mean? So you're going to use 5 parts joint compound to 1 part of your exterior latex paint. So that would be, you could use 5 gallons if you've got a larger project, 5 gallons of joint compound to 1 gallon of your exterior latex paint. Do the math however you need to do it as far as needing larger versions or smaller versions, but it's a 5-to-1 ratio. Has to be mixed up very well. You want it to be creamy, almost like a milkshake sort of texture to it. So why would we use Monster Mud? Well, Monster Mud is used for taking cloth and making it hard. It's typically used in statues where you would take like a bed sheet, put it in the Monster Mud, work it in really good, and then you could drape it over the top of like a skeleton. And after a couple days, it'll harden. And then of course you'd want to paint it and make it look weathered just the right way. And you do have to seal it, by the way. You do have to put some type of a clear coat on it. But it turns it into a statue. I mean, you could literally tap it and it's hard now. So remember earlier when I said that Drylok gives your tombstone a stone-like appearance? Well, this Monster Mud makes it feel like stone. So it feels, it's hard at that point. That's the main line I'm trying to draw for you guys to show you what each one does. And again, you do have to clear coat the Monster Mud after that. I've tested all this and I tried it without clear coating it here in New England. In the weather that I get here, it only took a couple rains and it turned kind of into mush. So do not skip that step. You definitely want to do a clear coat. All right, so one more time, Drylok. You can purchase it pre-made. It's used on tombstones, cemetery columns, on foam to give it a look of stone, a stone-like appearance. And Monster Mud is something that you make. You take joint compound and latex paint, exterior latex paint, you mix it together, and you're making statue props out of that. That's it, guys. I mean, really, between those two things, in the end, I'm going to get some hate here from people because I know you can kind of mix things here and there, but for you guys that are just starting out doing this, that's it. That's what each one of these do. So here's one of my tombstones that I use Drylok on. It's Drylok on its own. There's nothing else on this except for some weathering and just being out in the weather. Looks great. You can see the texture, and you stand just a few feet back. It really looks real, at least to me it does, especially at nighttime. It looks fantastic. And here is something that I wanted to show you guys. I've been saying for years that I'm going to make a full-size skeleton statue or two out of Monster Mud. This is something I tested probably 8 or 10 years ago, just on a very small scale. But yeah, I mean, I just took this, I put it in the Monster Mud. I did do some dry brushing after it had cured, and I did hit it with a clear coat. This sits on one of my tombstones every year. I really hope to build one of these maybe this year. If I do, I will absolutely do a video for you guys. Now here's where things become very confusing, because there are reports of people mixing the two together. I can't say it's wrong to do that because it sort of makes sense. Some of it does. Other applications to me don't really make sense. Here's an example. I know some people are mixing Drylok into Monster Mud to make their statue. So I guess it's hardening like it should, but then it does have that sandy texture on top of it just being hard, Or maybe they're going back after the statue is cured and painting it with a Drylok. And that's not wrong. And that may even be what they're trying to do to waterproof it in the end. It could work. I don't know. If you guys have done it that way, comment below. I'd love to find out. And also, I know people take Monster Mud and they're painting their tombstones with it, which to me is very odd because in the end, you're absolutely going to have to clear coat the tombstone, because that will run off. I know that for sure. If you guys have done any other versions of this or have any other ideas, man, definitely comment below. It's never my way or the highway. I want to hear from you guys. And I know that people have kind of mixed some things and maybe it's worked out great, and I'd love to hear the outcome for you guys, definitely. So thanks for hanging out. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.